with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is.
I was afraid,
Right.
I didn't know what to do. A lot of us be coming in it.
And what I'll say was amazing to me was
Season 2. Welcome back to the L3 Perspective. My name is Glenn Davis. As you know, I'm sitting here with my co-host, Cameron Macias.
Coach Cam.
L3 Perspective, as you know, we talk about life, love, leadership.
As we've talked about in the past, like, love, share, subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Because at the end of the day, we do it for you guys.
What's going on, guys? Hey, welcome back to the L3 Perspective, where we talk about life, love, and leadership. Man, this is going to be an amazing episode. If you're in business, if you're interested in business or anything around that realm, you definitely want to tune in and listen to the gems that's about to be dropped. But without further ado, I'm going to toss over to Cam and we'll jump right into it.
Hey, so as you guys already know, like, love, share, subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. At the end of the day, we do it for y'all. So if you're not telling us what you want, then we're just going to keep doing what we want. And that's not the whole point of any of this. So check it.
Yeah, so guys, listen. Some of you may have been on Instagram, on all the social media platforms. The individual who's sitting in the seat today is amazing. I've had the opportunity to connect with her briefly. She just flew off the airplane, fresh off the airplane.
Fresh off the
in
seat.
seat at the L3 Perspective Bay Area. But without further ado, we have a very, very, very special guest, Jaquinta Prim. But not only just Jaquinta, also known as Coach K. And so Coach K, Nashville, Tennessee, came out here to the Bay Area, California, business consultant, so financial background, helping a lot of businesses and organizations, nonprofit organizations find funding, right? And so right now she's doing a tour. Make sure you guys follow her. But with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Coach K.
Thank you so much. I love it. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. First of all, how was your flight?
Yeah.
Wasn't bad at all.
Yeah.
Yep. 5
Right.
hours, but worth it. I'm glad to be here and ready to educate some entrepreneurs.
Yes, ma'am. Welcome to the West.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
And the one of the last affordable counties in California.
Oh.
So that's why, what you bring to the table is so important tonight, because the money can stretch even further here than it does throughout the rest of California.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So we want to talk about this financial tour that you're doing, but before we dive into that, we want to hear a little bit about who Coach K is. Right? Who is
Yeah.
Coach K as a young teenage girl transitioning into business?
Oh, I love that. So young teenage girl, still trying to figure it out, had a lot of opportunities in front of me, but I was a daddy's girl. I was spoiled rotten. I was the brat. I would literally call my dad for anything. But made the decision right out of high school that I needed to kind of distance myself from family so that I could be more independent. So I decided to relocate to Huntsville, Alabama, and I graduated from Alabama A&M. And while working and being a college student, I started working for a financial institute. Well, I started working for a payday loan company, Advance America. And while working there, I seen that there was a lack of education. There were people who were coming inside and they were getting this payday loan and they were paying $87.50 every 2 weeks. There was one young lady who had been in that space since that payday loan company had opened. So imagine paying $87.50 every 2 weeks for a span of maybe 10 years. You've literally purchased this
great.
business,
Yeah,
right?
This is yours.
So in that moment, I realized that there was more that I wanted to do. So I started working for Wells Fargo. I went and transitioned and worked for Wells Fargo. But still, while working for Wells Fargo, I realized that there was still a gap. People would come inside. They wouldn't have the knowledge of what a checking account and a savings account was.
Yeah.
They would want funding. They would want credit cards. They didn't know what was required. They just knew they needed money and capital. So in that space, decided that education was the best, where I really wanted to be and start educating people, not just entrepreneurs, but people in general about finance.
Gotcha. Awesome. I remember jumping into the financial industry 2017 while I was still active duty. And that was one of the things that I learned, like in that space, especially in our community. Right? So I was sharing, I'm from Philly, but in those specifically inner cities, that education is a huge piece that's missing. So to have another person who's dove into it nose deep and bringing that value. That's it's great to hear.
Yeah, and so I grew up single. I'm an only child, single mother, but my mom was in accounting. She's been in accounting my whole life, and so I used to glue receipts to pieces of paper, but like to help like her. She paid me. She's like, hey, glue this stuff, and I call it day.
Old fashioned bookkeeping.
And what was crazy though is that but the financial literacy piece of it, I was never actually taught, which was funny because like when I got older, I was like, wait a minute, I haven't really been taught about many of these things. And I was fortunate enough that I had some mentors in the military who helped me learn it, but there was also some who like didn't. So it's like I always try and tell people. I know G says the same thing: is be careful of course where the information comes from. And so as you were like growing up in the industry, like how did you siphon what was real and what wasn't?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to have parents who educated me about finance.
That's good.
They helped me purchase my first home. I think I was 20 when I purchased
Shout
my
out
first
to
home.
moms and pops.
I remember, how you're like at college and you have all of these people on campus and they're asking you to apply for stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember applying for something, not really knowing what I was applying for, but my mom called me within like a couple of hours and was like, "What did you just do?" She had an alert on my
she's
credit,
like, hold up.
and I didn't realize it and how important that it was. But that was a moment. Now I'm like, oh, I'm glad she was. But I was very fortunate to have parents who educated me on home ownership and but again they educated me, but I was very pacified, right? So I didn't really know until I got on my own how to pay bills because my dad did everything.
Yeah,
My
for
mom
sure.
did everything. They paid for my car note. My dad would still meet me every week and put gas in my car. So I was, they taught me about home ownership and these are the things that you should have, but they didn't really teach me like how to make the home run and and make sure that you're not house poor and that you're
Correct.
living paycheck to paycheck. It was just, again, being in that space and seeing the lack of information that others had. Now I decided that that's not the future that I wanted for me. So I started educating myself and having those uncomfortable conversations with people around me. But one of my mentors, he always says, whoever has your ear has your future. And I take that and I apply that to me every day. So people who are pouring into me and people I'm listening to, if I'm not interpreting that and I'm not reciprocating that the right way, it can lead to a disaster in my future. So I just have to make sure that, I'm taking bits and pieces of what I receive and applying it the correct way.
Gotcha. So speaking of that, like I know you mentioned that you come from a background of parents who have kind of poured financial education into you. I know we were kind of talking about kids a little bit earlier. What are some of the lessons that you took away? What's maybe one or two things that you took away from the financial education from your parents? And what's one or two things that you're instilling in?
Yeah, that's good. So the biggest thing is having those uncomfortable conversations. So with my daughter, I let her sit down with me and we discuss finances. And that's something that I think as parents, we kind of should stay away from. Even with working at the bank, I would see people come inside and they would make their kids stay in the car and they would bring them a sucker out or a dum-dum out,
yeah.
But there are other people and other genders and other races that would bring their kids in and they would sit them down with them in the bank and watch them do business. There was one gentleman, he adopted a young lady from, I think China, but he adopted someone from another country. And he brought her in, he opened up a teen checking account. After he opened up her teen checking account, he came in, he opened up a college account. Then he set her up for her first credit card. By the time she was graduating college, she was ready to purchase her first home. He set the foundation up for her success and for her future. So I took that information and now I'm pouring that into my daughter. So she's 14. She understands credit. She understands those conversations, but she also understands when mom makes a mistake. I've let her see me make a mistake on my account and, hey, it cost me $35 in an overdraft fee. I let her see my credit score go down because mom forgot to make a payment or I didn't make this annual, there was this annual fee on this credit card and I forgot about it. Now my score tanked 60, 70 points. So it's having those uncomfortable conversations and not being how we always say, your kids stay in the kid's place. No, let me teach you and show you these mistakes that I've made. So when that hurdle comes for you, you know what to do or you know what not to do. So you're not in that same situation.
Yeah. I will say that's one of the things that I will say about jumping in the financial industry, being able to like absorb so much information and be able to pass that down to my kids. Right? I remember watching Eric Thomas video like years ago. and the video was basically saying like financial education changes situations, and like that's a way of which I live my life now, being able to instill those values and those principles and those lessons learned because of what wasn't taught as a kid to me.
Yeah. And like a lot of people, so for you, a lot of people I know, especially like myself, I'm divorced. I got 3 kids. I'm married now again. And we're I would say, a lot more successful than I was before. And one of the things that I count that to is that I was an emotional spender. I spent money because I was unhappy. And that was a personal thing, right? Like, I don't blame that on anybody. And so many people talk about that your financial situation a lot of times replicates your emotional situation. So, like, how did you manage that? Like, because you have this knowledge, you obviously have the know-how, you have the experience, but like we all have emotional things, right? So like, how do you manage that, and like how would you suggest other people manage it as well as they try and become more successful, but they feel like they have the tools, but they can't execute?
Yeah, that's good. So, a lot of people, they see me and they don't see, I don't share a lot of the things or the hardships that I went through. Definitely went through hardships. Definitely had to make some tough and challenging decisions. For me, I travel, right? So if I get into a funk, if I get into a space where, I'm like, ooh, I just need a moment to myself, it's always travel. But I'm an expensive traveler too. I like to stay at the St. Regis. I like to fly first class.
I know, for sure.
So now it's just kind of like, wait a minute, I'm not in the space where I can do these things, but that's kind of like my emotional, or where I kind of go and I reconnect, or I press reset. So it's like, what else can I do? But I've definitely made some challenging decisions, and definitely had to kind of like regroup and figure out different ways to restructure that, so that I'm not in a space where now I'm putting my household in jeopardy, or, I'm making decisions that are not the best for me financially. So it's just figuring out what works for you, sitting down and strategizing. I definitely took a moment. I made a post earlier today. I took about 6, maybe 7 months of complete hibernation.
Okay.
I didn't go shopping. I didn't travel.
Yeah.
I wouldn't text. I wouldn't talk on the phone.
Oh, wow.
Social media, I was limited to an hour of social media a day, but it was because I knew I wanted this Coach K brand.
For sure.
Right? It was me building the brand. So literally locking in changed my life. So that was a moment of just going in and figuring out what I really wanted, what I had to do to get that space, and what sacrifices I had to make as well.
Cam and I was talking about that just the other day, as far as like when you lock in, like the things that you can accomplish as an individual and how the mind works is, an amazing thing. So the Coach K brand. So when you were in that phase of your life, like locking in, what was that process like as far as before the launch of Coach K, and then once you launched it, what was that feeling like?
Yeah.
Especially because like you would think it would be a lot more social media, especially in today's age. It's like, oh, I'm gonna lock in and go hard. Oh, I'm gonna be on social media 5 hours a day, just like. So the fact that you actually took that off the table for the most part to recognize, I call it the boring things that people don't want to talk about, right? Like the boring things that really build an empire. That's pretty dope.
So a lot of people don't, and I don't talk about it a lot, but I was actually terminated from Wells Fargo for teaching this information. So there was,
Really?
yeah, absolutely. So there was a moment where, so I'm still working for Wells Fargo. I started a childcare center as well, but then I realized that there was a gap in education. So now I'm teaching and I'm educating others. And I'm doing it for free. I'm not charging anybody, but I'm teaching. And someone called HR on me and Wells Fargo called me and told me, because of their exact words, because of the competitive nature of your business, you can no longer work here, right?
Because
So
now
conflict
they're
of
not
interest.
taking loans from us.
Well, exactly, right? But I was still teaching. When I teach, I educate on grants and funding, because I think entrepreneurs should leverage both, right? So in that space, I realized, you got something. If a large company and corporation feels intimidated, you got something.
Yeah.
So in that moment, I really had to decide, like, this is what I'm going to do. But I still had that 9-to-5 structure. And I think that's what a lot of people miss. They see entrepreneurship and they're like, oh, I can make my own schedule. I can do what I want. I can. And I
Yeah,
still,
buddy.
even several years later, I still have a schedule where I have a lunch break. So I work. You know, I know what I'm going to do the next day. I wake up I go to sleep at night with a game plan of what I'm going to tackle the next day. I have an hour set time where, you know, this is my me time. This is my time with me. So it's that structure, and I still have that. And I think that's what a lot of people miss when they go into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, that's one of the things that, you know, people don't realize. Like, you have good habits, that carries over. It carries over into how you live life, especially when you're looking at building a brand, not just completely taking away the principles that you've learned as in working a 9-to-5, but leveraging the skill sets that you've learned and just kind of building.
But this is why I say that people ask me all the time with my daughter, she definitely has an entrepreneur mindset, but, you know, do I feel like she should go to college, or do I think she should have a job? I think people should go work for a corporate, they should have a corporate job because it creates that foundation. It creates that structure. When you go from high school or straight out of college to entrepreneurship, most people don't have what it takes to be a full entrepreneur and have that drive. But that corporate job, or that, you know, it gets you in the habit of waking up. It gets you in the habit of showing up. And if you can dedicate all of your energy to making a corporation run, just imagine what you can do for yourself.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it comes down to accountability too, right? That's like where that job comes in, is like, if you've never been like accountable past high school, you don't have a frame of reference.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty cool that you like almost made yourself an employee. You're like, hey, these are clock in, clock out hours. And a lot of people, like, we talk about that. So at one point I was in the house a lot. I'm in the military. And so, but it afforded me to kind of create my own schedule, things like that. And I was noticing, like, I wasn't operating on that, right? Because I didn't have anywhere to be. I didn't have anything to do. She's like, oh, just like get the work done. It's like, all right, cool. But once I like forced myself to really go out and, you know, I would say in society and like be accountable to like society and like get dressed and like can't be going out in basketball shorts and stuff, like all those things changed the trajectory of where we were going, especially as business partners.
That's good.
I agree. So you're now, branding Coach K, you've now executed it for a while now. What are some things that really keep waking you up in the morning to provide that value to so many people?
The impact. Knowing that I am providing information that's literally changing lives. It's saving companies, it's saving households, it's allowing people the opportunity to actually execute on their dreams. And I think that's the biggest piece. It doesn't matter, you know, how many followers I have on social media or how much money that it's generating. It's knowing that I am giving somebody a resource that they didn't know was there, and it's literally changing their life.
So you obviously talk about how do you find all these grants?
So there are so many different ways to find grants. I tell people the easiest way is to look right in your back door.
Okay.
So your city and your state, they have funding that's available for you.
True.
And most people overlook city and state funding, and they
think it's
want
like
to,
some big thing.
they think it's some big thing. But when you can make these connections with local foundations and local organizations, or either your city council, and tell them about your business, tell them about the things that you're doing, the impact that you're making, and how you are, you know, growing and thriving, they're going to be excited to invest into you. What happens is when we come together as a city and we build as a city, it makes others want to come. It allows the opportunity for us to get access to more money and more capital. So right in your back door, there's funding available. You can go to the SBA's website, type in your zip code, and it will connect you with your Small Business Development Center.
Yep.
Your Small Business Development Center should be able to tell you where the local opportunities are as well.
Yeah.
Or you can go to a website called Candid and type in foundations in your area, and it will tell you foundations that are local, but not just the foundation. It will tell you how much money that they're going to give out every year. Yeah. So to tell you if they have $10 million to give out, and maybe they've only gave out $1 million so far. So we can go knock on the doors of these foundations and say, hey, we heard you got $9 million over there. Right? So it's just connecting with people that are local and telling them about your mission and your impact.
So for those that don't know what a foundation is, can you tell them?
Yep. So the way I love to break it down is there are a lot of very wealthy people in the world.
For sure.
And what they do, what they do is some of them, they start foundations so they can avoid paying taxes.
Yep.
So they put money into these foundations to avoid giving Uncle Sam all of their money. Well, the money that goes into the foundation, it has to go somewhere.
Correct.
And sometimes they like to pour back into small business owners or nonprofit organizations. Now, most of these foundations, they have a mission that they want to invest
pushing,
into,
yeah.
or somebody that they want to give funding to, or you have people who pass away and in their wills they say, you know what?
Create a foundation.
Yep. Part of this money has to go to a foundation. And every year, in honor of me and my legacy, I want you to give it back to somebody that's doing this. So foundations are a huge way for you to get access to funding and capital. And it's probably one of the most overlooked. So when we talk
gonna
about
say,
grants, most people don't talk about foundations. They miss out on the opportunity. So when people talk about grants, they're afraid of it or intimidated because they think so many people are applying.
Yeah.
A lot of people are not applying for these foundation grants.
Yeah.
Especially for so another thing is for-profits. So many people, I think, believe that like for-profits, there's like not opportunities out there. I'll be honest, I wasn't really educated initially as well until I learned like, oh, there are things like, the way we talked about the Verizon Super Bowl thing and all that. What are some of the ways that you really think that like small for-profit small businesses are just like leaving money on the table?
Yeah, so that's great. And that's actually why I teach this, because there are so many people. And I was actually in that space when I needed funding I started a childcare center. And I needed funding for my childcare center. I was a for-profit and I didn't think I qualified. But the more I started educating myself and reading and realizing there were companies who would fund me as a for-profit, I started educating others as well. So whether you're a for-profit or a nonprofit, you qualify for funding. However, you can't say, hey, I need money just to start my business. I need money for inventory.
Yeah.
So what I tell people who are in my community, there are a couple different ways where you can get access to funding as a for-profit.
Okay.
I love for people to find a problem and be the solution to the problem.
Okay.
So if you can locate a problem within your community or within your industry, and you can figure out how your business and your brand can be the solution to the problem, now we're able to go to these companies and organizations and tell them, this is why the funding is needed and this is why you need to give it to me. So we highlight a problem, tell them the solution, but tell them why our business is going to be the solution or help push the solution to the problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the largest grant you've won?
Personally, $146,000.
Okay.
However, we have somebody in our community who just received 2 grants for $500,000.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's
That's good stuff.
join the community. Dog.
Absolutely,
Join it.
the business and grant community is crazy.
Yeah. So speaking of community, like what does that look like? Right? Like I know you just mentioned community. Like what is that?
So I think. So as entrepreneurs, we try to do it all by ourselves, right? We try to take it all in. We try to find all the resources. We try to figure it all out. And that's one of the mistakes I made when I was on my journey of entrepreneurship is I thought I could do it myself. And I made a lot of mistakes. So I built this community. It's called the Business and Grant Community. It's literally the #1 community for entrepreneurs. And I say that because inside... I love Terry, sorry. But inside the community, we are literally educating entrepreneurs about so many different opportunities and resources. But it's that being able to share your vision with people who share the same vision as you. So sometimes, we don't have anybody where we can bounce our ideas off of, or we don't have the support or the accountability that we need. So inside, we are giving grants to apply for every single day. So I have this strategy of entrepreneurs who apply for 1 grant every day have a 99% success rate of getting access to funding and capital. So I'm giving you the grant to apply for. So there's no excuses. I'm telling you the companies that will give you funding. So I'm saying, hey, go to this bank. This bank is giving out funding. This is what you put on the credit application, or this is the underwriter that you call. And it's helping us get the results and the funding and the approval quicker. Or sometimes there's grants out there. Like we just had a grant that we applied for inside of our community. The grant didn't have enough people to apply. So there was somebody who reached out to me and said, hey, can you send this to your community? Because there were not enough of people that applied for the grant. So inside the community, it's literally just a safe space for entrepreneurs. But it's everything that I wish I had when I started my journey.
And you actually got to connect.
I got to
the
connect.
fact that people are contacting you directly, like,
Absolutely.
that's what you want to have.
Absolutely.
So with so much funding out here, it's untapped. Like why is it important to you to help people find this funding?
Yeah. We just don't know. It's that education piece. And I wish somebody would have tapped me on my shoulder and told me, hey, before you go invest 6 figures into this daycare, there's a company that will give you 6 figures to go make this daycare yours.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't know until it was too late. I didn't know that I qualified for grants or that I could get 6 figures in funding until I had already maxed out all my credit cards.
Yeah.
Until I had already took out a home equity line of credit on my home that my parents, had encouraged me to buy. So I didn't know this information until I was already drowning in debt.
Yeah.
Had I known this, I would have been able to save my 6 figures, in my savings account, still have this safety net. So if I needed it, put it up for my daughter's college education, right? And then being able to fund my dreams and fund my vision using OPM, other people's money.
Yeah.
So I educate and I teach entrepreneurs and I mentor entrepreneurs on this because it's everything I wish somebody would have tapped me on my shoulder and said, hey, girl, come over here and let's use this resource. So it's that education piece. And I think that's just what's missing in our community. There are so many people gatekeeping and not sharing, or they're only sharing a little bit of this information. And there's so much, I can go get $1 billion and there's still $1 billion available for you and you.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I asked that question because specifically what you even touched on, because generally a lot of people are so selfish or they want to just hold on to information, especially when there's money involved, right? So it's refreshing to see someone who is genuinely wants to educate folks, help them to find the funds. Because like you mentioned, there's so much funds out here for everyone. One of the things that I noticed that in our community specifically is that Cam and I have created this space where we're bringing folks around the county together.
And country now.
And country now, yeah, absolutely.
it.
To where, they can not only just be creative and innovative, but we can execute, right? And so, the community that we're building here within our network is, really creating this foundation so that what Solano County looks like in the next 10, 15 years is a complete shift, right? More folks are traveling to Solano County.
Even Northern California, just in general.
Right. To be able to be in this creative space and take their ideas to the next level.
Yeah. And collaborate and not compete. And like you said, there's more than enough of the pot to go around, right? I think too many times we get so caught up in oh, I got to get it, it's mine. And, I don't want to work with anybody because I don't want to split anything, when we started, or when I started the company initially, I immediately was we were already business partners, but it wasn't on paper. And I was like, look, I sat down with our families and I said, I would rather have 50% of something than 100% of nothing. And I can't do this by myself. I trust you. I love you. You're my brother. We got to do this. And so, we made that bond, right? And in 10x. We still sit back and it's how long we been in business? And it's 2 years. And we're bro, it feels like 10 with all the things that we've been able to accomplish together. Somewhat personal question.
Okay.
You're a single mother, right?
I am.
Okay. Can we talk about what it's like to do all this as a single mother? Because I think many times, we both grew up with single mothers. And so we have seen what that takes to be successful as a single mother, and the things that are that we saw as children. I'm sure the things we think about that our children now see, right? And so, how do you balance that, and how do you take care of yourself throughout all that?
I love that you asked that. I've done several podcasts and no one asked that question.
That's
so
why
I
we're the
appreciate
Welcome to the L3.
Welcome to the L3.
Welcome
baby.
to the L3. I love it. So when I started this space, I was still living in Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah.
And
Gorgeous place, by the way.
it's beautiful, beautiful. I think it's ranked #1 city to live in right now.
Oh, it might be.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, it is.
Sorry, Huntsville.
But I didn't have any family there.
Okay.
I have friends and I had a solid support team there, but I had to make the uncomfortable decision to relocate to Nashville, Tennessee, where my family is, because I needed that support system. I knew in order for this to work and in order for this to grow, that I had to make sure I had people around me where I could be in California on a Friday afternoon and know that my baby was home and safe.
Yeah.
But I had to put in a game plan. And part of that game plan was retiring my mom.
Okay.
So making sure that I was putting the key pieces in place to where she was retired, but that meant the world to me because
That's dope.
you know, she worked for a company. She started there when I was 1.
Okay.
And she didn't retire until this year. So she worked for different positions in the company. She moved her way up. She was top manager in the company. So she was very high ranked. And she, for as long as I can remember, she was getting up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, getting up, going to work, uniform, not being there to get us off the bus
Yeah.
at school. So being able to switch roles with her, now she's sleeping in. She could sleep to 6, 7 o'clock.
Oh, you still here?
Yeah. I'm getting up at 4 o'clock to go to the airport to get on a plane. So I enjoy that more than anything. But making sure that I am in the space to make sure my family's good. But I definitely had to make that uncomfortable decision I had to take the risk, right?
Yeah.
If I wanted this to work, if I needed this to work, I had to. The number one priority was making sure that my baby was safe and my baby was good. So now that she's in a space to where she's okay,
Yeah.
now I'm able to just be the brand.
For sure.
But most importantly, I have to always take care of me. So I do take, take time. I told you earlier, my thing is travel.
For sure.
So I have my reset moments. So after any big event, I go reset. So I'm hosting a conference in a couple of weeks. After that conference, I'm taking 2 weeks to go reset.
There you go.
That's my happy place is traveling and just being able to lock in. I still work.
Yeah.
But it's just now I'm working with the sound of the ocean in the
Yeah.
background.
Yeah.
Oh,
Beautiful
Barbados.
thing. I remember telling my mom, so my mom's from Philly. I remember telling her 2.5 years ago, like in 5 years, I'm retired. Right. Kind of going back to the single mom thing. Like I've, growing up, I've seen her
We
work.
haven't forgot moms.
Like growing up, like I've seen her like really working 2-3 jobs for, 2-3 decades. And, granted, she's still fairly younger and they kind of still be mobile. But, just to see, like now as a parent, to see the things you do for the little ones that you love, right? And the sacrifices that you make that they don't see. And I'm sure she makes a lot of sacrifice without seeing it. But, I feel like I owe what she instilled in me as a young man, to her to retire her so she can enjoy the rest of her life. She's worked so long. And so to hear you say that is pretty dope with all that. Anyway.
Yeah. So the tour.
Yes,
whole reason you're out
yes,
here.
Funding
yes.
Blueprint tour.
So
Yes.
how did you come up with that? So I asked that, one, is so obviously the viewers can know, but two, because my brain doesn't work like that. So, in our business, Glenn is, like he's aesthetically makes everything look appeasing. When we do our training, he's the one that organizes it. Like he has a forward-looking vision for organized events and curriculums and things like that. My brain isn't like that. I'm too shoot from the hip. The military did too good of a job teaching me how to just be like walk into a room and just go.
Yeah.
And so, like, how did you what was that process? And like, how did you decide who you were going to bring into it with you? Because that's also an important piece as well.
Yeah, so amazing question. So the initial piece was the conference. So I'm hosting a conference, the Funding Blueprint Live Conference in Atlanta, Georgia.
That's dope.
And so we have probably about 10 different guest speakers. It's literally the blueprint to help you guys help entrepreneurs get access to funding. So we're doing live grant applications. We're doing a pitch contest for $5,000.
Oh, snap.
We have somebody that's doing live funding applications, like live on the spot.
Like on a screen?
We're going to tell you exactly, you're in the audience. We're
Yeah.
telling you what to do, and we're getting approvals. The goal is to get over $1 million in approvals right there live at the conference.
Ready to take a flight?
If you are anywhere near Atlanta, you got to go to that.
Absolutely. But while we're planning this conference, we're like, wait a minute. Everybody can't make it to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Everybody's not in the space where they can come to Atlanta. They
Agreed.
can, get on a flight. They can pay for the hotel.
Yeah,
So
there's
it's like,
barriers.
what can we do?
Yeah.
We still want to educate. We still want to be out there. We still have the mission. We still want the funding blueprint. What do we do? So
Yeah.
again, I have this amazing community.
Yeah.
And in the community, I'm like, okay, how can I make sure I'm still touching everybody in the community? So we threw a poll out there. Where are you located? Okay, you're located in New York. You're located in Atlanta. You're located in Vegas. So, we were like, okay, we're going to Atlanta. We're
Yeah.
going to Vegas. We're
Yeah,
going
yeah.
to New York. We're going to We're going to the Bay Area. So
Yeah.
we decided that we were going to touch the cities where we already had community members.
Makes sense.
So I can make sure I touch and connect with my community members who can't make it as well,
course.
but also go out and make an impact to other people in their community also.
Yeah. That is like a full
Yeah.
force plan.
Yeah, I have a solid team.
So how big is your team?
So I have an amazing mentor. His name is Nehemiah Davis.
Okay.
And
Shout out to Nehemiah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Nehemiah.
So, yep. And he's actually one of the keynote speakers at the conference as well. But Nehemiah Davis connected me with a team called the Circle of Greatness, and
Okay.
there's about 20, maybe 30 people on this team. But they assist with everything from project management to scheduling to my funnels to my ads to my communication, copywriting, everything, to where all I have to do is show up and be the face of the brand. So while I'm right here, my automations are working. I just got a notification and we just got 2 sales, right? So
Yeah.
so
That's
everything is working, and I get to show up and connect and
Yeah.
and be the impact
Yeah.
that I'm trying to be.
That's a beautiful feeling. One of the things that you had said that kind of sparked the thought was, so Cam and I, some of the small businesses and nonprofits, as we were doing assessments with them, about to provide services, some of them couldn't afford it in the season of their business organization, right? So we end up developing a cohort. And so the cohort was specifically designed so that it could be more affordable for individuals, where we could still provide value to the businesses and organizations in Solano County. So again, when you talk about your community, it just validates how important collaborations are when you're trying to reach people and do things. So
Next 5 years.
yes,
What does it look like? You wake up tomorrow, 5 years from now. What's your life look like?
So next 5 years, definitely, I vision the Coach K brand to be. The goal is to be one of the best speakers in the world when it comes to grant funding, top in the world, making an impact not just in the U.S. but globally.
Okay.
So recently was nominated for an award in Africa.
Oh, snap. Congrats.
So yeah,
Congratulations.
That's
definitely,
awesome.
definitely. Thank you. So the goal is to just make sure I'm making an impact, a global impact. Also just building the brand. Of course, we want to be, the goal is to have at least $5 to $10 million in funding every year for entrepreneurs. So next 5 years, definitely make sure we're still growing and thriving in that. But I also want to help entrepreneurs. The same way Nehemiah has helped me with my brand, I want to be that for others. So that's the next 2 years. So go in and help them with their automations, their systems, their funnels, their building their brands, and that way they can just show up and now they can be in the Coach K space.
Yeah.
that's good. From one Philly native to another, shout out to but so that's good that you clearly have seen yourself in this 5-year plan. So there's a lot of people who walk around with limited beliefs, right? A lot of people in our community, a lot of people in the entrepreneur space. What are some things that you share with them as far as them expanding their vision and not getting stuck in these the bad habits, getting stuck in that mindset space of they can't do it? What would you say to that?
So I think it's an amazing question, and I think you have to let go of any negative objection. But in order to do that, you really got to sit down and figure out what you want. Then you got to come up with a game plan of how you're going to get it. One thing I did when I decided that I was going to be in the coaching space, I knew one of the goals of being in this coaching space was to retire my mom. I wrote a check to my mom. Now, she couldn't cash it at that time, right? But I knew the number that it was going to take to get to a certain goal for her to retire so that I could build the brand and be in this space. So now I know a number. I see the vision. Now I got to go out and I got to make it happen.
Yeah.
So I locked in on that goal. So I tell people all the time, you got to see the goal. You got to know the goal. You got to see the goal. You got to visualize the goal, but then you got to have a game plan. Yeah. Then you got to hear the goal. So I have a recording on my phone where I'm telling myself affirmations every single day of things that I got to do. But I'm listening to this all the time. So now it's in me all the time. Okay, you got to make this happen. You got to do this. This is the game plan. So instead of me riding down the street listening to the latest, song, I'm not going to say a name, but listening to whatever the latest song is, I'm listening to me. And I'm listening to the passion in my voice of what I got to do to make this happen. So you got to lock in on whatever it is, but you got to know what it is that you want. And you got to know wherever you are in your journey right now, it's not where you want to be in the next 5 to 10 years. So what do I have to do to get out of this space?
I have to say, I am very impressed. And I think that's the first time I've ever said that on the show.
Really?
Not against anybody that we've had on the show, but that takes a level of lock-in that most people are not ready to do.
Yeah.
And I say that as a place in my life currently where I am more locked in than I probably ever have been in my entire. But I know I wake up and I take cold showers every day. You know, I don't listen to music as much. I listen to the podcasts that are growing my mind. I read every day. My phone's off at night. All electronics are off at 9 o'clock in my house now. Like I go to sleep. All these things, right? I work out twice a day. Like all these things to lock in to make betterment of my life. I don't drink alcohol. I don't eat sugar right now. Like there's all these things. And it's funny because as I tell people about it, a lot of times I'll eventually hit something that they're like, nah. And I'm like, man, like what if that's something though?
Yeah, you caught me at the cold shower.
Yeah. That's what I got. That's what I got most people, right? And so I'm sure I get pretty much 99% of people. And so, but that's why G's my boy, because I know he does it sometimes too. And so, but it was a part of the 75 Hard program. I don't know if you ever heard of it. Okay, yeah. So I'm in the second phase of it. But, I did that because it sucks. It's not fun. Like, I'm not like, oh, yeah, I get to get and take a cold shower. Like, but if I can train my mind to put that that necessary pain, right, we talk about, to the side for a second, what is the 10x amount of progress that can come from it?
So I have a question for both of you, since with you saying that.
No, we don't work like that.
Nah, yeah,
it
we're
goes
gonna
that
do
way,
it
not
today.
this way.
So do you feel that so both of you guys have talked about kind of being locked and being in this space mentally. You provided some tips and practical principles, which I appreciate, because that's one of the things we love to do in these conversations. Not just talk to inspire or motivate individuals, but also provide practical principles. My question with that, do you feel, so we were talking about community, do you feel that you being locked in and focused and making these adjustments for that next best version of yourself, is part of the inspiration behind that based on the community that you have? In the sense of whether mentors or business partners or whatever the case is. So that's kind of a question for both of you guys.
So in the beginning of my journey, it wasn't. It was selfish.
Yeah.
I knew that I wanted more. I knew that where I wasn't where I wanted to be forever. I knew that there was more for me. And on that journey, I lost one of my closest friends. She couldn't understand why I wouldn't text back. She couldn't understand why I couldn't show up to the events and why I was no longer, at the club or on the latest vacation. She couldn't understand it. So I lost one of my closest friends. But now in my space, I think it has a lot to do with my community. I told you guys who my mentor is. My mentor makes sure that I'm in the room with 8 and 9 figure earners. So now I'm around people who think like 8 and 9 figure earners. So now my lock-in is a little different because now my vision is different. Now I know that 8 and 9 figures is attainable for me. So my lock-in is completely different than what it was at first.
Appreciate it.
I would say I'm probably in the, I don't want to say selfish stage of it, but like my circle hasn't grown to the 8, 9 figure earners yet, right? And so, but I'm on a mission for it to grow to those places because I know what that means for us. I know what that means for my family. And so, but I know that I have to be the person to change that. I too have lost 2 of my longest standing friends within the last 2 years. One of them, it wasn't even like necessarily an exact conversation. It was just like we were together, and I think we both realized like, oh, we're no longer like, and he's doing great things too. It's just different. And so, and then my other best friend, it was like, I can no longer associate with you, like because you're putting me in situations that will stunt the trajectory that I'm on, and so I had to make that conscious decision. And so, but I have also noticed that since locking in, the community is growing now. Now people notice what's up. And then it's also like taking the burden off ourselves. Like if I give you an opportunity and you take a hold of it, I'm not going to chase you down for the opportunity. I put it out there because I believed you might be open to it. But if you prove that you're not, that's not my fault. So I'm gonna keep it moving, and I'm gonna find someone that wants to take it seriously. Just like I'm sure your mentors are. They're like, hey, here's the opportunity. They saw you took it seriously. Okay, now we're gonna take her to the next level.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yep.
Remember, to a point that you said, I know you are who you attract. And so the rooms that are attracting themselves to you are the rooms, right? And you're already that. And so same thing for you. So this would be a great
you
journey.
for that.
Us.
Yeah.
So, as we reach the end of the segment, there is only one question that is prepared for any show that we're on. We don't prepare no questions, but it's G's question. So I'm gonna let him ask.
So we are on the L3 perspective,
Okay.
right? So 3 words: life, love, or leadership. Choose one of those words, and if you could just speak whatever comes to mind.
I'm going to go with love. I think none of this is possible without the love and the encouragement and the push and the motivation from my circle. So I always try to lead with that. I always try to, when I feel like things are challenging, when I feel like things are not going my way, I circle back to my why. And my love and my family is my why. So I'm going to go with love. I think that is the why I do this. I think that is why I make this connection. The love I have for my family, but even the love I have for my community. The business and grant community has turned into a family. I love them. I'm checking in like every single day, multiple times a day, in the city, in the communities, and making an impact. So love is going to be where I lead and where I always go.
Yeah, that's amazing. I appreciate you being a leader of leaders. I appreciate you sharing your love in the space of what you're doing and impacting the lives that you're impacting. And so, just grateful to have the opportunity to connect with you today. And yeah, same. I'm pretty impressed. Like I mentioned 2 years ago, I came across your name, but I'm more of a supporter.
Thank you.
So have a safe flight back to Tennessee. Thanks for carving out time to spend time with us at the L3. But
So first off, tell people where they can find you, what you have going on, how to join your community, and anything else you want to bring to the table.
Yeah, so I'm Coach K. It's Coach K on all social media platforms. So that's ITSS Coach K. I have an amazing business and grant community for entrepreneurs showing you how to get access to grant funding and business funding. So you can find that at businessandgrantcommunity.com. But I'm just excited to connect with entrepreneurs who are ready to elevate, who are ready to go to the next level. If that's you, let's connect and let's get you the funding you need.
Cool. So with that being said, y'all, as you know, like, love, share, subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. At the end of the day, we do it for y'all. And we appreciate y'all listening. Peace.
L3.
Loved it.
So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is
I was afraid, I didn't know what to do. A lot of us be coming in it.
And what I'll say was amazing to me was
Season 2. Welcome back to the L3 Perspective. My name is Glenn Davis. As you know, I'm sitting here with my co-host, Cameron Macias.
Coach Cam.
L3 Perspective, as you know, we talk about life, love, leadership.
As we've talked about in the past, like, love, share, subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Because at the end of the day, we do it for you guys.